Welcome to Take It from the Ironwoman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Ironwoman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Ironwoman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. Take it from the Ironwoman. We only have a really special guest, and today is a real honor. Jonas Deichmann. Maybe some people don't know him, but he's the ultra Ironman who has been traveling around the world, but he should introduce himself and just tell us what is an Ironman and what has he done. So Jonas, I'm super excited to hear from your story and I have so many questions for you. Introduce yourself. Who is Jonas who's going to join us today?
Hello, and it's my pleasure. I'm an adventurer and motivation speaker from Germany. And 4 years ago, I started setting different long-distance world records. First, cycling across continents as fast as I could, across Europe and Asia, then Pan America from Alaska to Argentina in 97 days, and then across Europe and Africa. And 2 years ago, I got this idea that I want to do a new project, not only cycling, but a new discipline to push my limits. I always had this dream of going around the world. My last project, that was the first triathlon around the world, and I completed a distance of 120 times Ironman. One Ironman is the long distance of the triathlon. So it's like 3.8 kilometers of swimming, 180 of cycling, and one marathon of running. And my distance on my trip around the world was 120 times this. So I swam for 460 kilometers in the Mediterranean. I cycled 21,000 across Europe and Asia, and I won 120 marathons across Mexico. And I arrived a month ago back in Germany and completed this challenge.
Congratulations. Me as a one-time Ironman, I can only understand how much it is. I'm curious to find out on the preparation and logistics part. It seems like you take 1 year to prepare for a 1 year or even a year and a half tour around the world. Maybe give us a little bit an insight of how is that preparation going?
As I said, I was a cyclist before. For the cycling part, I didn't really train much. I do have the endurance and everything. I was a decent runner and not a swimmer at all. So my focus were on cycling and swimming and running. And of course, the logistics behind that, and also the gear and everything. In terms of the running, I trained here in the Swiss mountains a lot, and I got 2 car tires that I could put around my waist on a rope, and with that I run up the mountains to simulate the running trailer I was now pulling across Mexico, because I was running without a support car, and I did a lot of running with those car tires to prepare. And in terms of, I did some swim training, of course, but not techniques, just to swim. And I swam across Lake Constance, which is the biggest lake in Germany, 65 kilometers, also with pulling a raft. So I was also there having my whole luggage with me and swam across the lake. So that much in terms of physical preparation, but the much more important thing was, of course, the logistics behind, because the important thing here is I did the whole trip without a team behind that was carrying my equipment and my food and everything. In Russia, for example, I crossed in winter on the bicycle. To train for that and prepare, I went to the cold chamber of the German train company, Deutsche Bahn. And they have a 25-meter room where they put in their trains to test them in extreme conditions. And I could get in there on my bicycle, on a home trainer for a few hours. And they had minus 24 degrees inside, and a wind machine and the ice machine and everything. And I had a proper Siberian winter storm in there. And I was training, like, how does my body react? But also other questions. What is with the electronics, for example? Does the power bank still work? What is with the chain and everything, those temperatures? That was super interesting. And it's the whole concept of all of this that I had to prepare.
I've done 26 marathon races. You go to the start, you have a little bag, you end, you have another bag, but you do it every single day. And I'm curious about the swimming. So you had everything with you and then you went ashore and slept somewhere, or just give us a how does a day look like when you swim the whole time? And I want to say something. People think they think I'm crazy. You're probably also crazy. But some people, they go into the office and they work 8 hours. For you, you just swim, whatever. That's your work, right?
Exactly. I just swim 8 hours, and that's my work. It's the same concept as going to the office for 8 hours. I just have a different office. The logistics, especially in swimming, is incredibly tough because I had a small raft that I was pulling along with all my food and everything. But there wasn't a lot of space, so I didn't even have a tent with me. I was just having a sleeping bag and an emergency PV. And I was always calculating, okay, there's the next harbor where I could walk on shore and walk to the next supermarket. It was like 20K away. I have to be there tomorrow, otherwise I don't have any food. Then in the water, the wind direction changes. There are some currents, and I'm much slower. And then I got pretty often stuck at some rocks without food. The logistics was an absolute night. In general, I swam the whole day. I even ate my lunch in the water. And then at night I swam to shore. And I slept somewhere on the beach on some rocks, and I continued the next day. And when I was hungry, I could eat in the water, even swimming. When I ran out of food, I swam into the harbor, walked to the supermarket with my wetsuit and my raft under my arm. So I got some funny reactions from the locals, and I continued like this for 54 days of swimming in total.
My question is always, what do you think when you swim?
This is so incredibly challenging. For me, the swimming was the hardest part, not only physically, but especially mentally, because cycling and running, you can see something, you can listen to your playlist and everything. But swimming, there's just water. There's a bit of plastic garbage, but otherwise there's nothing. It's very, very boring at times. For me, the secret here is to have small goals. So of course I know it's 460 kilometers to Dubrovnik, and I visualize my arrival in Dubrovnik. In the day-to-day business, I always think the next walk. So I think, okay, over there is, I have to cross this bay, and then in 500 meters there's a small bay, there's a small walk. I swim to this place, and then I eat a chocolate bar, and then I'm happy again. And I have very, very small targets, and that's the secret.
That's the secret in many things. Set realistic goals when you say eat a chocolate bar.
Yes, it's basically breaking down big goals and small ones, and reward yourself with something that you really like. This is the key to extreme sports and to many other things, because you have to see the finish line long before you are actually there. And for me, the finish line is never far away, because I'm having just many, many different things.
As I say, in life, there's no finish line. When you think you are at the finish line, there's always something else. You said you went all by yourself, so you don't have a team, even on the bike. Is that safe?
Yes, I never had a team. There was, of course, a film team that was coming sometimes, but they were not there to help me. They were just there to film. So they were sometimes went to sleep in the hotel, and I slept outside in the rain. But that was the deal of it. For the cycling, it's actually the easiest discipline in terms of logistics, because I can cover 250 kilometers a day. There will always be a restaurant. There will always be a supermarket. It's raining, I can reach the next hotel. That's all super, super easy. But swimming, 10K of swimming or 12K of swimming is actually pretty far a day. And running, it's somewhere in the middle. But logistics for swimming is horrible.
And in the cold, I mean, I've seen a few pictures in the cold. I don't like the cold. So how is it to cycle in the cold and then sleep in the cold? How do you warm up?
I do prefer the heat compared to the cold. But now I had, of course, on the swimming leg, in the end, I swam until November. And so that by then the temperature was quite cold. And when you are in the wetsuit all day, it's pretty cold. But especially on the cycling leg, I mean, I crossed Russia in the middle of winter when it got a bit fresh at points. The real cold days, they are actually not that bad. If you have minus 20 degrees, it's very dry cold. With proper clothes, it's all okay. The worst were the days in spring already. It's like around 0, +1, +2 during the day. Everything is completely wet. And then at night, minus 15 in the morning, getting out of the tent, the wet stuff, and start cycling and the next restaurant can be 100K away. So then that's really the bad thing.
Me, it's incredible and amazing. And how do you motivate yourself every single day? You have a goal. You want to go around the world. When we think about leadership, that's your project. That's the end of it. But how do you motivate yourself every single day to get out there?
The first thing is again, the small targets. So every morning I wake up and I'm usually hungry. Then I think like, oh, it's just 3 hours and there's a restaurant. And I really want to get to that restaurant. This is like really the key to all my projects is chocolate bars and small targets. They are never far away. And I also always say do shit first, which means it's raining outside and it's cold in the tent. It doesn't help to continue in the tent. It doesn't change anything. I'm just getting more hungry, and the cards I have are just getting worse. I always get out as fast as I can, and I start. Because it's usually the first moments of really like getting over it that is the worst, and it's getting better. We all know when, as a runner, you put on the shoes, it's cold, you go, and then it's like, this is so cool, even if it's cold or rainy or whatever. And in terms of the bike, you only had one bike, you had special tires, and how many flats did you have? I only had one bike, but I changed the tires a few times because in Russia it was winter, so I needed different tires, of course. I was running tubeless. I had 3 or 4 flats in total, not that much. Again, what do you think on the bike? This is my kind of like question. You say you have a playlist, so you listen to music? Yes, on the cycling parts, not always, but sometimes I listen to music. On the running, almost always I listen to music. And it depends a lot what I'm doing, where I am. If I'm cycling somewhere up a beautiful mountain pass, I don't need anything. I just enjoy the nature and everything around. And I think about life, all my important decisions, important ideas. I get them all when I'm out doing running or cycling. When I come back from my project, my head is full with new projects, new ideas, and I know exactly what I want up. It sounds very cool to be an adventurer. And I know a lot of people say, I would like to do this. I mean, I've done Kilimanjaro, 26 marathon, 1 Ironman, and people say, I want to do what you do. And I'm like, okay, do it. And then it's hard. It's lonely. Do you think you're an introverted person or extroverted person? It's sometimes lonely, but sometimes there's also hundreds of people around. Like in Mexico, I became a national celebrity as German Forrest Gump, and I was never alone. Yeah. Lonely it can be, but the better word is, I think it's extreme in both directions. And I also have a lot of people who tell me like, oh, I love your life, I love your job. To be honest, 90% of the people don't want to do it, probably 99%. I do have a few friends who joined on small projects, an overnighter or something like that. I would say pretty much half of them, they say they love it. And not at the same scale, but afterwards they always went on camping trips, and they're like, this is much more adventure. It's much better than the hotel. Let's go for this. And the other half, they hated it, and they say, I never ever again, because it's pretty hard, and you have to enjoy the hard moments as much as you do enjoy the good moments. But not everyone wants it. Tell us a little bit about the Mexico experience. I mean, I've seen those videos, and you are surrounded, and it's all happiness. And you were in the local news, the Forrest Gump Aleman. How was that? It got pretty crazy. My original plan was to run across the US from San Francisco to New York, but then pandemic, and I'm also on some kind of terrorist list or something like that, because I was in Iran and Sudan on my last trip. I couldn't get into the US. And anyway, I had to change to Mexico, and that was the best thing ever. When I started running in Tijuana, the border, I was basically alone, and I crossed the Baja California desert completely on my own, which was amazing. But then it sometimes got slowly into news. First regional, but then at around 2,000 kilometers was La Coqueta, which was a street dog. And she, for some reason, joined, and she ran 130 kilometers after me. And of course, I couldn't keep her, because I mean, I was running to Mexico City and other places, so she would simply get hit by a car. And I was in a small TV channel, and I looked for someone who adopts her. as it is Mexico, and Mexicans are just a bit crazy. She got adopted and got a big celebration. The mayor had a medal for her, and she became like a honorary member or honorary dog of the city and everything. The next day, the dog and me, we were national news. Since then, I was never alone again. I had first hundreds, then thousands of people following after me, and it was national news basically every day in Mexico as a Forrest Gump Alemann. Since then, it got crazier and crazier every day. I mean, then police and military and all kind of runners joined, and it was a completely different experience.
Wow, what can I say? What are you taking away from this episode? A lot to digest, a lot to reflect on. What are your goals? What can you contribute to the world? Take it from the Ironwoman. We have episodes every Monday, every Wednesday. Don't miss out. There's something for everybody. We find people with interesting goals, interesting adventures in life. You can be part of this. And Take It From the Ironwoman is also a book. It started out with me moving from Switzerland to New York and finally completing the Ironman distance. Thank you so much for your support.